I'm Britt Udison, Executive and Artistic Director at the Loft Literary Center. Welcome to this live stream at Virtual Wordplay. I'm so glad you're here with us. Before we get started, I want to talk a little bit about what brought us here today. For the last year, the Loft staff has been working hard to put together an outdoor book festival that would have gathered 100 authors with 10,000 visitors in our neighborhood in downtown Minneapolis. As COVID-19 hit, we knew we had to think about everything we do differently, especially this festival. While we were disappointed that we wouldn't be able to gather in person, we became even more committed to supporting writers, celebrating new books, and finding new ways to assert the connective power of the written word. In a time of anxiety, we want to offer a powerful event for readers, writers, and booksellers. When we first approached our sponsors, their first question was, what is a virtual festival? And to be honest, we didn't know. Our founding partners, St. Catherine University and Star Tribune, agreed to make a leap of faith with the Loft. With courage, generosity, and vision, they have worked alongside us to figure out what this virtual festival might become. We are grateful to our sponsors and donors. Their generosity is incredible, but it is not enough. We believe it is essential, especially during a health and financial crisis, to offer programs that are free and accessible to all. But that has led to a significant revenue loss. A live event would have included ticket revenue, beer sales, exhibitor fees, and additional sponsorships. The Loft is not closed. We continue to offer classes, fellowships, conversations, support for readers and writers in addition to this festival. We are here to support the literary community, and we ask that you continue to support us. If you are able, please consider making a contribution to the Loft today. Thank you for being here.
Hi everyone, and welcome to this special multimedia wordplay event featuring poet Nick Flynn, composer Guy Barash, and poet and visual artist Rachel Eliza Griffiths. My name is Abby Frank-Taylor, and I work with the Loft Literary Center. Before we get started, I wanted to take a moment to thank Wordplay's presenting sponsors, St. Catherine University and Star Tribune. If you'd like to support the work the Loft does, like this wordplay programming, you can do so by clicking the support button below. Also at that button, you can conveniently buy Nick's book, Stay, Threads, Conversations, and Collaborations from our friends at Moon Palace Books. And you'll also find both Guy and Rachel Eliza's website, so you can check out their amazing work as well. After they're set, they will be taking some questions from the audience, so feel free to put yours in at the Ask a Question tab at the bottom of your Crowdcast screen or in the comment section if you're watching via social media. And now we would like to welcome Guy, Rachel Eliza, and Nick. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks, Abby. Hi, I'm Nick Flynn, and I'm really happy that my friends and collaborators, Guy Barash and Rachel Eliza Griffiths, are here with me. In part, it's to celebrate the book of mine that came out called Stay. It came out in the middle of March, and so we've gone virtual with it. And it's a book that the subtitle is Threads, Conversations, and Collaborations, and it has, I'm so glad that Guy and Eliza are here because they are two people that are in the book, two of my friends, longtime friends, and also we did work together that has now ended up in this book. And we're going to present some of that to you today. So we're going to start with, Guy and I are going to present a song from a band that we are part of called Killdeer. And yeah, we'll start with that. We'll start with Guy and I doing a song. Guy Barash.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks for having me.
Parrot. Stranger, uninvited, you come up to us on the sidewalk. My daughter's hand in mine, you look at her and coo. It goes so fast. What, stranger, is this unnamed it? This day, her life, our happiness? Stranger, maybe you missed it, but just now, my daughter and I hurled rocks into the emptiness and we created more emptiness. You know, How a killdeer pretends to have a broken wing to lure predators away from its nests. How it staggers just out of reach. If at this moment you're feeling metaphorical, nest can be the whatever inside us that we think needs protection. The whatever that is small and hasn't yet found its way. Like us, it has lived so long on scraps, on what others have left behind. It thinks it could live on air, on words, forever almost. It thinks it would be better to let the predator kill it than to turn its back on that child again, forgetting that one lives inside the other. Poem to be whispered by the bedside of a sleeping child. Here's the deal. If you die, and I will be able to drink again, and no one alive will even blame me. This child is the dark wind inside, but not the darkest. Then I think I'll have another child, a backup in another city with another woman, just in case. Then I think I'll call this poem to be whispered by the bedside of a sleeping child. So when you're older, you'll understand. Then I think this isn't even a poem. Thank you, Guy. We're going to shift over to Rachel Eliza Griffiths now. She's going to show us, she has a book coming out in June from Norton called Seeing the Body, a beautiful collection of poems. And she's going to give us a preview and read a poem from that and show some of her images also. Eliza.
Thanks so much, Nick. I'm going to share my screen, and I have a book coming out called Seeing the Body, and it's got photographs in it as well as poems. It's my first kind of hybrid, maybe self-collaboration. And I'll read a poem and share some images, and then look forward to talking with you and Guy both. So. Belief. I'd come into the room and try to write a different ending on these anonymous walls. There was less time, all the time, until time changed. You know what I mean. You stare at the clock, the vomit-hued walls, that hush dripping in your head until you feel you have never been elsewhere. Your world is a sigh from the bed, a moan, another request for ice chips, water, some news, any news from the doctor. Water again. Where is the doctor? I tried to read and write. Over and over, I arranged plain little soaps, toothbrush, and comb. From home, I brought my mother's own things, hairbrush, Dove, and Revlon lipstick, dolled our darling up, washed her weary face, twisted my mother's hair into a ballerina bun, used the pink lotion the way I was taught, rubbed chemi oil along my mother's scalp while she purred, yes, yes, thank you, Rachel face. I smoothed thick cream and pulled compression socks on bony feet we once teased her about. My brother gave Evan, the funeral director, a blanket to keep my mother's feet warm, while I, dutiful daughter, fretted about the type of shoes our mother should wear inside of her casket. But before I accepted her dying, which would be true 5 months later, I tried to keep writing my mother a strong beginning. We slept on the floors of waiting rooms. We drank coffee and ate out of foil or boxes. We took shifts, stepping in and out of hell. We never abandoned her. We went out and walked around Jefferson Hospital looking for the right food to put some weight on my mother's smile. Her body was the only home I've ever cared about. I watched red and green lines on screens, wrote out notes and dosages, walked down freakish hallways after midnights, bodies at unrest, bodies snoring, growing, farting, cursing, screaming, bodies sighing in yellow tunnels. Blank and courteous, my foolish mind will come back to the same idea. My mother is going to live because she is just going to live. And you know, I would begin the list again, revising the mercy of the God I knew. I dreamt in his hideous chapel, prayers drying desperately on my lips. I'd rub balm against my mother's mouth, hold the straw while she barely sipped, shaking her girlish head if the water wasn't cold enough. Then her pain gripped us too in the irritated drip of her voice. I would speak to her in the quiet of our terror, look into brown eyes that I see now whenever I look into rain. Sometimes I'd hum alone in the middle of the night. I didn't know who I was trying to save anymore. My mother was so close to us, I could almost reach her bad heart. The tired organs stalling in her body, I believed if I took more care with my mother's life, there would be a God who cared more than the God who did not think about our bodies, about the divine grief of daughters, about my mother or the ache in these stanzas I write, these too thin veins that still river our lives in blood.
Wow. Thank you so much. Can you leave this up, Chris? Leave this image up. I'm going to read a poem. Eliza asked me to write a poem, asked me and other poets to write poems in response to these photographs. These are now included in her book, Seeing the Body. That's right. The photographs will be in the book. Eliza, yeah.
Some of them will be in the book,
Yeah.
Nick, but not the things that were written. But I'm gonna let you be in this.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna read the poem that I wrote in response to Eliza's photographs. Amanuensis. If you write about painting yourself into a corner, I have lived so much with you not being here, then one day you might find yourself, in fact, painted into a corner. Or you might find yourself on the edge of a cliff, or maybe face down on the carpet in a white room. Why not then try to write yourself out into a field, say, or onto a country road, or knee deep in a river that might or must open into the sea? If you write it out, the words could become clear, not blurry, no, like that photograph of your mother, calm, looking straight into the you are now, as she holds onto the you were then, as you both play struggle against her. All right. You could leave Eliza's screen now, and I will put up my screen. Hi, everyone. Eliza, thanks so much for that. I'm going to share my screen for you all. So hi, this is the beginning of the book Stay, which is just come out. It came out a month ago from Z Books. It's a book of my writings over the past 20 years, I guess, but my collaborations with other artists over the past 30 years, friends and artists that I got to know and become friends with by collaborating with them. Pieces of interviews I've done with various people I respect and like, and fragments of my writing also. And I try to sort of weave it into a sort of a comprehensive whole, a container of some sort. So these are some collages that I did, that I do. I've done a collage practice for many years. So I thought I'd start with a little piece on that, on my collage practice. It's called On Ephemera. When I find myself in a new city or town, at least until I know where I am, I give myself a daily task. Each day, I must locate 3, sometimes more, pieces of ephemera: a scrap of paper, a gum wrapper, a shopping list, a child's drawing, with the intention of making a collage. Ideally, I will finish the collage by the end of the day, and the next day, I will begin a new one. To call what I'm looking for trash is accurate, as it is usually something that has been discarded, hopefully even walked on, definitely exposed to weather, but not for too long. I like the effect of weather on paper, how it seems to contain time. I don't pick through trash bins. I have to find it underfoot. I'll spend the whole day searching for these 3 scraps, with the simultaneous task of finding a piece of cardboard to arrange them on. I also have to locate a stationery store where I can buy rubber cement or a glue stick. It's preferable if the cardboard has an image printed on it, a label indicating what the box once held, oranges or safety pins, a number or a logo. The scavenger hunt helps me get through the first day or week. I get to know the city this way. I get to find out where or who or what I am. I'm going to scroll through the book a little bit so you can see a little bit of it. This is a PDF. There's some comics in it from my friend Josh Neufeld, pieces of interviews, photographs. This is a dear friend, Mark Adams, who's a friend of mine from Provincetown, the artist, and he took to painting pages of a book that I published called The Ticking is the Bomb. He painted over the pages with these walnut ink images. I'll read a piece that maybe speaks to that. On thresholds. The idea of writing can give meaning to chaos. I don't know if that's true. At the moment, for me, that seems like an attempt to exert too much control over this enormous and incomprehensible world. It seems there's always another threshold to cross, which might simply be part of the beauty and the terror of getting older. I hear myself say, oh yeah, I've already dealt with that thing. That night our house caught fire, say. But then something rises up and forces me to realize that I haven't dealt with it much at all. Right now, I'm pretty sure I'm at the end of something, that I've come into the last psychic space that's unexplored. But that's bullshit. In 10 years, I'm pretty sure I'll think, my God, I thought that was it. We'll move on. Thanks everyone for being here. I have no idea who's here, but thank you. This is the collaboration, the page that shows a collaboration with Eliza and the poem next to it. I love that page. It's a collaboration with Catherine Opie. I love this page also. This is a page of a picture of my mother, a photograph of my mother, which I hadn't seen for a long time. I hadn't seen this when I put the book together, definitely when I wrote the poem, which is next to it, which is called Blind Huber is the name of the book. And this poem is called Hive, but something about putting the two together next to each other released a different energy for me. I think I will read the poem. Yeah, I'll read the poem. Hive. This is in the voice of a beehive. The poem is written with the beehive talking. Hive. What would you do inside me? You would be utterly lost. Labyrinthine comb, each corridor identical, a funhouse there, a bridge, worker knit to worker, a span you can't cross. On the other side, the queen, a fortune of honey. Once we filled an entire house with it, built the comb between floorboard and joist, slowly at first. The constant buzz kept the owners awake, then louder, until honey began to seep from the walls, swell the door frames. Our gift. They had to burn the house down to rid us. We'll push on. This is a photograph that appeared on the cover of my last book of poems, the I Will Destroy You poems, where the collaboration with Eliza is located, and also the poems that I collaborated with Guy that we just sang together. I'd like to read a piece just with this. Let me find this piece for us to read. It's called On Madness. This photograph, by the way, was taken by my dear friends Nicholas Kahn and Richard Selesnik. They're a collaborative team, and me and my whole family have been the subjects of their photographs over the years. And this was Maeve, my daughter, when she was 7, dancing with our friend Andreas, who's dressed as a giant bat. I'll read this. On Madness. I once heard that the voice of madness is compelling because it uses your own voice to convince you to say, wander into traffic, or to climb a tower with your rifle. If the voice was unfamiliar, you might not believe it so readily. If the voice was unfamiliar, it might get you to see that there are other ways of being, other options. It might allow you to see a way to break out of the patterns you're trapped by, patterns you no longer even see. Traffic, towers, rifles. The world is vast and filled with voices. If you live in New York, then the voices that rise up from that island of power and creativity can seem the only ones worth listening to. You know it's wrong, but you also don't really believe it's wrong. They sing to you all night. This might be true with anywhere, if you only listen to the voices of those who live next door, who look like you. That was from the forward to Guernica magazine that I wrote. Let's see what else we have here. That's the piece I just read, was this On Madness here. I got a couple more minutes and then we're going to do another song. Another Mark Adams. I'm walking you quickly through a book. If you were quick, you could take a photograph of each page. You wouldn't have to buy the book. This is a page with Zoe Leonard, collaboration I did with Zoe Leonard, who we knew each other back in our 20s, and she lived in a boat for a summer that I lived on. And then she went on to do her creative work. She just had a retrospective at the Whitney. At the same time she was taking this photograph, which I went and saw in her studio, I was writing Another Bullshit Night in Suck City, and this line ended up in Another Bullshit Night in Suck City, and I can't tell if how consciously I was influenced by her photograph, but they seem to speak to each other. I look in his eyes as he speaks. Somehow I'd learned to do that, like a tree learns to swallow barbed wire. This is more of an unconscious collaboration, but then Zoe and I reconnected a couple of years ago in Marfa, and it all came flooding back. I'm going to do one more, maybe two more. I'll read this one. It's on bewilderment. This is with my friend Rachel Zucker, has a podcast called Commonplace, and she interviewed me on it. And this is what we talked about, one thing we talked about, on bewilderment. I've come to believe that my only project this go around is to get my feet on the ground, to land in some way. But to land, it seems, you have to go through these periods of bewilderment, of unknowing. I could fake it. I'm good at faking it, maybe too good. I learned early on how to dissociate. It's like a switch I can simply flick off. I could easily fake sitting here, yet I'm actually here, sitting here, right in front of you. But if I haven't wandered in that wilderness, if I haven't followed the threads deeply into the psychic realm, then even my sitting here will be false. All right, I'll read one more, and then we'll go back to Guy, and I'll do one song, and then we'll push on. I'm gonna just land on this page. I like this. Maybe I'll land on a note there. Hold on. I want to get to. It's an odd way to do a reading. I'm so sorry that we're all in this world, but it's still a beautiful world. This is my friend Doug Paget. This is a cover for Plowshares that I edited, and I really love this drawing. It's a pencil drawing that Doug had done. I'm going to read this called Manifesto. This will be the last piece. Early on, I began looking for people I could work with, someone, anyone, to help me with my projects, though what those projects might be was utterly inchoate to me, unformed, uncontainable, incomprehensible. In college, I set a typewriter up in my dorm room. Anyone who entered that room had to spend some time on it. You had to make something, leave something. I was trying to know what was essentially unknowable, what it is like to be someone else, what the interior life is like for you. This is an idea I continue to wrestle with. All right, we could, I'm going to escape. I'm going to leave this now. I'm going to come back, bring back Guy Barash, if we could. Hi, Guy Barash.
Hey, Nick.
We're going to finish a song, and then we're going to have a little discussion, or questions, I think, questions and discussion after this song. The song's called Jesus Knew. That's Guy Barash. Unlike you and I, Jesus knew he'd die. Some days, a headache woke him. It lingered, nothing terrible. But the word hung around his temples like this soul everyone wants but can't find. Jesus knew he'd die. He just didn't know how. And that bothered him sometimes. And then he'd do one of his little tricks. What the hell? Didn't hurt anyone. Didn't make anyone disappear forever. But the tricks stopped working. He forgot why he did them and what for. He confused a story about a guy named Jesus with a story about a father he never knew. And it all began to hang like a moth-eaten coat pulled out of a trunk on a shaky day. Hey, let's return to the scene of the fucking tragedy. At least we all know how it turns out instead of this endless uncertainty. Hey, let's sell our souls a few more times. No one's really counting. Those little papers you trade for your sins, what do you call them? Anyone? No? Anyway, Jesus this, Jesus that, God of nickel, God of dimes, right? The real Jesus, he was lost. He walked into the desert, not far really, his friends, his disciples. He told them he'd come back. Like us, he said this every time he left, but Jesus never said wait, never pointed to the sky, never claimed he'd rise again, never asked us to eat his flesh. Jesus never asked for anything, as far as I can tell. He got tired every day and then slept, sometimes okay, sometimes unbearable. The dreams, the Father pointing a finger at everyone, a finger you can't even look at. All right, let's bring Eliza back. I guess I'm not sure if Abby will come back for questions or if we'll have a discussion. Hi, Eliza.
Hey.
Ah, there's Abby.
Hello.
Abby.
Thank you all so
Hello.
much. What a treat this is. I feel like it's
Thank
really
you.
stretching the boundaries of what we can do in these virtual events. So thank you for that. And we do have some audience questions if we want to start there, and if that spirals you off into discussion of your own, that's great. That sounds
good.
All right? Great.
Yeah.
All right. This first question is from Michael. He's asking, poets like myself sometimes hesitate about collaboration or are worried it could even be seen as compromising the language by introducing other artists. What are the gifts you've experienced through collaboration?
Yeah, I guess I'll start with that. I guess compromising the language. I think that's not the bad thing, really. It complicates the language. It makes it it stretches your, at least for me, it stretches my the possibilities of, it stretches the idea of what's possible with language. Like when I work with, when I spend time with Eliza's photographs, say, and try to imagine, like, what would be the equivalent of language of this, of what she's done. She's done these amazing series of photographs. Or when I listen to Guy's music and we bounce ideas back and forth, it really deepens it. I know a lot of folks don't do it. I've been teaching collaboration for the last like 15 years in Houston, at the University of Houston. And yeah, there's resistance to it, and it's hard, but what comes out of it, what can come out of it is really quite beautiful. And I just think everything is collaborative, actually. I really think that everything's collaborative. Do you want to jump in, anyone, Guy or Eliza, on this? Yeah.
I think this is really where the magic happens, collaboration. It's an opportunity for you to look at, what you do from a completely different perspective. You take, you work with an artist from a different discipline and take a completely different set of parameters that they use for what they do and apply it to what you do. And suddenly it expands your vocabulary, your palette. You start seeing things differently, thinking about what you do differently. I've worked with dancers, for example, in the past, and suddenly I can think of music in terms of movement and direction. And I know from speaking with them, with my dancers, choreographer, collaborators, they now can see dance as a melody. So they really inform each other. And I understand the resistance, but for me, it's now, I can't separate it from my process. Even when I don't directly collaborate with another artist, it's always there in the background.
I think that you two pretty much said anything I would say. I mean, when I think about, photography, so much of it inherently, just because of what's involved with it, is a collaboration. You have to kind of come outward as much as you're going inward. And depending on what you're photographing, if it's like me, portraiture is very important to me, then there's a negotiation that has to happen between myself and another human being about like a bridge, or they're going to let me see them. And in some way I have to let them see me. There's so much trust. And even when I'm photographing myself, it's still, I really have a different perspective about what I'm kind of asking or reaching or attempting to do. I think because there's a part of us, even though we're collaborating, that's so intimate and private and so much like yours, it's like your thing, it's like your body. So even when you're collaborating, you have agency about that. Like you have permission, like you can dial that up as much or back as much as you want. And, even if you're sitting alone, like we all are, and like reading a book, you're in some kind of collaboration, you're in companionship with someone else. And so how many of us as authors, is like we have certain books that we pick up and we're writing toward or against or through another voice, and that on like a very simple, a little bit reductive, but like on a certain kind of scale, that's a collaborative or communion with someone. I think people sometimes get scary about collaboration. But I think more and more, particularly with technology, it's thank goodness for it, especially right now with what we're going toward, because we can bring something towards each of us. Like I'm making this dish, Nick's cooking up something, Guy's got something, like we bring it toward each other and we've made like this feast. I think that's beautiful. And I think, you know, when you don't need to collaborate too, you know when something is like really yours, or it's about you, or it may be years before you have someone look at it and say, hey, can I see you? Or like, can I come toward you with something? So that's something I would add to what these two have said.
And that actually transitions really well into the next question, which is from Steph, which is, now that we're navigating this whole virtual event space, is it opening up more ideas for you about future collaborations?
I guess I would say just by necessity, like having to do this is this is not our chosen way of doing a reading. It's strange. I mean, I not to see the audience is really a difficult thing. Not to have like that energy from the audience, not to see people that come. And part of doing a reading, a book tour or a concert, is that people that will come and you'll get to see them. It'll be, you get to have a meal beforehand or something. And, there's a lot that's lacking with this, but, I'm really grateful to the Loft and to, Wordplay to set this up, because we do need to, and we may need this for a while longer. I mean, we may need this for a while longer until, we get decent testing at the very least. So, yeah, and it's also interesting. I taught, I finished my semester of teaching in the University of Houston yesterday, and it actually went really well. Like, we did, the last 6 weeks have been, virtual, which I had very little hope for. And it was kind of beautiful. Like the last class was like really a beautiful class. And, would it have been better live? Probably, but we did okay though. We adapted. So, Anyone else want to jump in to that, or?
I relate to what you said. It's odd. It feels odd not to have the exchange of energy we have with, being with other people in the same space in a reading or a concert. But I'm opening up to the idea. I mean, I like Nick said, I think that this may last for a while and we have to get used to it. And I'm starting to recognize the potential in this platform. I've seen a bunch of other events online recently, and yeah, definitely we can do stuff with that. It's also beautiful to see Nick and Eliza reading to me so close. I don't think
yeah, from our bedrooms.
I mean, I would not have that.
When do you get that? When do you get that? Yeah, right in your ear, like right into your ear too. So,
exactly.
Yeah.
I'm gonna play with Guy's toys. There's a house party brewing.
It does feel like a family meal, like you said. I mean, there's something intimate about it. It's strange. I mean, I don't think it will replace human interaction, but there's something in it.
Yeah, we're learning.
Yeah.
This is a question specifically for Nick from Teresa. Why did you choose that picture of your mother to match with Hive? What about it or her, especially in that picture, made sense for that pairing?
Sure. That picture only appeared, like I didn't think I had pictures. My family's the way we are. Suddenly, an envelope just appeared on my desk. That had like all these photographs in it that I'd never seen before. There was no discussion about it. So I opened them up and there was this picture of my mother, this beautiful picture from when she was about the same age. I think the same age my daughter was at that time, like 7 years old, 7 or 8 maybe. And it was just really eerie because my daughter looked like her, and that there was this sort of, I recognized where the photograph was taken. And there was something about designing a book. That was a very much of a collaborative process too, like designing that book and doing the page layout. Michael Zilka, who's the editor, set me up with a design studio in New York called With Projects, it's run by Jiminy Ha. And we would just sit like once a week for like 6 months and like figure out like these strange juxtapositions. And there was something about the energy of that, even though those two, I didn't know about that photo and I hadn't when I wrote that poem, but it did, that book of poems is all about, essentially about bees and not about me at all. I was just really trying not to write a book about me. Yet, there's characters in it. There's a queen in it. There's like these drones that, that you could project onto, transfer onto, like the queen is the mother, and there's these, the hive is the home. And so just to put them next to each other and to imagine that, just it created a different energy that I wouldn't have gotten. I never would have gotten. It was just sort of one of the pleasures of the book is that I was able to do things like that, to put these things together, then release a new energy from it. Yeah.
Great. I think we have time for at least one more. This is for all of you. You all seem to have so many mediums that you work in. How do you decide which medium or mediums you want to use to express an idea, or is this where collaboration is really helpful?
I'll let someone else start. Eliza, you want to start with that?
Yeah, so I mean, I don't really have a static formula or thing entrance into a work. Like, a lot of times I'll experiment. Like, I'll have a little kind of riff of language, and I might say, oh, I think this is a poem. And then as I'm going through drafts, I think, well, maybe I ought to paint this, or maybe I should try to visualize this and make like, a map or a rendering or some kind of shape or some colors or some moods. And then I look at that and then I put that up there, or, I'm doing photographs and there's a moment or something that happens in the photographs in that process or that work. And I think, oh, there's language in here somehow. And so I need to go toward that. And then some projects, it's just, this is going to be a collaboration, or you begin it and then you get to a point and think, I need other voices in the room, or I'd like other questions in this chamber besides myself. And then you kind of open. So, I think it's, what I like about it is that it's always fluid, and that it's never just, here is the poem, here is the photograph, here is the, novel. It's a constant life cycle. And so that suits me and my process.
Nice. Guy, what do you got?
The medium. Usually the medium chooses itself for me. It sort of reveals itself through experimentation. I come across say a poem that I want to work with, and I would read it over and over again, start hearing sounds, and ideas for music will arise. With that, the medium sort of comes together just through the process. Eventually I will know what would be the right choice here. For musicians, also, I mean, everything is a collaboration. Composers especially, we need other musicians to play our music. So it doesn't always feel like a decision, today I'm going to work with this medium. It sort of reveals itself.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I want to see, I'd love to see your studio, Eliza. I've never seen your studio I've seen studios of yours, but not this one with the writing, with the maps and the drawings and the paintings. Like, it sounds really like a great process, putting it together. Again, I think that idea like that of it being fluid is really important, and to let the work sit for a while and to try it in different forms until it finds itself. And sometimes that takes, a month. Sometimes it takes like 5 years. Poems can take a long time to find themselves. And it's helpful for me. I feel very, very open to the process and figuring out how to put things. I had a poem that just appeared, and my friend who's in the book also, Misha Richter, had a poem come out. I had a film come out this past year, and he asked me to write a poem for it. And it was just such a pleasure to do. So there's in the middle, it's premiered in New York, and in the middle of the poem, suddenly there's this poem being read, and it became the title of the whole film. And it was just like this, it went together, but just because he and I have a long relationship, like he and I have known each other for years, and it's a poem about Provincetown, which is one of my homes. And like, I knew he was going to ask me to do it for the film. Like we had been talking about it. So when he asked me, it came out really quickly because it was already inside me. And he and I have this sort of, he's like one branch of my my creative life that I keep going to. And it's the same. It really depends. Like sometimes Guy and I have done things together. Like the poem has really come up with Guy. Like it hasn't been like Guy just reading a poem and then responding to it. I've responded to his music just as much. And the poem, thinking about what poem would fit with that music. And the same with Eliza's photographs that I responded to. Like I tried to fit, like I was supposed to respond to one photograph, but I ended up sort of like being moved by all of them. And so I tried to fit them all sort of into this one piece, which is really a pleasure. Yeah.
Thank you. I think we've got time for one more.
Okay.
Which is, what's the most important part of collaboration in your opinion? What really makes it stick?
Listening to the other person, like being open and being not having a preconceived notion, but seeing what is the thing between you two. It's not about me and it's not about the other person. It's about the thing in between us. So that's what I sort of try for.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, I think it's about the connection with the people you work with, you collaborate. You can sometimes try to collaborate with someone because, you both appreciate each other's aesthetic, but something in the relationship doesn't click and it just doesn't matter. It won't work. But when you do feel comfortable with your collaborator, because you are vulnerable, you're exposing yourself, and you have to feel comfortable enough to do that. And if you do feel comfortable, when you do that, when you expose yourself, when you go to these places, really magical things happen.
I mean, yeah, Guy said all the words I'd say, and Nick, vulnerability, listening, magic, being open, coming towards someone else with a certain kind of sensitivity, that their ecosystem and their climate and their weather, is as valuable as the weather you're bringing toward the world that you're going to make together and inhabit, however insane that world might be or however calm it might be. That there is all of these kind of acknowledgements, and that if with fingers crossed, you'll have a friend. And I think that's beautiful.
Nice.
That feels like a lovely way to end this conversation. Thinking about bringing our weathers to each other. That's really amazing. Thank you so much. Well, thank you to Nick, Guy, Rachel, Eliza for joining us today. What a special treat to see you all collaborating from the comfort of our own homes and from your own homes. I'd like to again thank Wordplay's presenting sponsors, St. Catherine University and Star Tribune. Please do yourself a favor and buy Nick's book, which you can click below, and you can also check out more of Guy and Rachel Eliza's work also at the link below. So thanks for joining us and have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for coming.
Thanks.